Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Chatsunami. Just a heads up before you go into this episode, unfortunately we ran into some technical issues while filming this episode, so the audio this time around might sound a little bit echoey. Without any further ado, hope you enjoy. Welcome to Chatsunami. Hello everybody and welcome to a very special episode where we're celebrating 2 years of Chatsunami. Yay! My name's Satsunami and as you can hear in the background today we are joined once again by a very special guest. Fortunately we are not reviewing Minion memes and neither are we reviewing Godzilla, was it?
Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah.
Yes, how to describe it? It's you can't. It's an experience. It's something that you have to see to believe. But of course, joining me today is none other than my very good friend, Craigy C. Craigy C, welcome.
Hi, hello. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for having me for this very special episode. 2 years in the making.
I know, I can't believe it's been 2 years already. 2 years ago since you and I actually did the first episode together.
Really? What was it?
It was Dungeons and Dragons, an experience, in parentheses. And what an episode it was. And I've got to say, it is very hard listening back to that episode compared to like the newer episodes that we've done together. Just in terms of like editing and things, because as you know, and long-term listeners will know, the first 50 episodes were streamed live on Twitch, which I have to say, see if you forget to turn off your alerts. On Twitch, it's a bad time. It is not. It's no bueno. I'm just gonna put that out there. It's not great. Yeah, no. All I'll say is it was an experience, and listening back to them and me making a point or you making a point, and then all of a sudden it's sharply cut while you hear just like this follower. Yeah, so it has been 2 years. I cannot believe it. Time flies. Craigy C, where's the time going? This isn't even a rhetorical question.
I was going to say, that was very accusatory. I don't know where the time's going. Give me my time back, Craig.
That's why I brought you on today.
This isn't an interview, this is an accusation.
I've got a lamp in the corner of my desk right now. If it didn't mess up the audio, I was tempted to grab it. Where was it? So, Craigy C, do you want to tell us what we're going to be doing today to celebrate such a momentous occasion?
Yeah, so instead of me holding you hostage and making you do something really terrible, such as Minion memes, we're actually going to be doing something maybe a bit more up your street today. I'm going to be sitting down and interviewing you, kind of flipping the script a wee bit. You've been doing a lot of interviews with other streamers, other people of interest, and I thought, you know what, it's your turn to sit in the hot seat. So, I wish I had like a wee jingle. Brilliant. So yeah, welcome to Satsunami. Welcome to Satsunami.
I was just going to say, if I hear anybody using that on YouTube,
demonetised.
I'm going to DMCA that crap. For legal reasons, the red panda in the corner is saying, yes, it's a joke. Yeah, for legal reasons, that's a joke. Sorry, continue.
I'm just going to blast out the Lavender Town theme at the end of this just so you get demonetised on every platform.
No!
What am I doing? Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, you're in the hot seat today, so I thought we could interview you. So welcome to the show, welcome to Satsunami, it's presented by Craigy C. Let's get right into it. As I was just saying, you started your podcast on Twitch about 2 years ago, but before that you were actually streaming on Twitch. Do you want to just talk about how you got into streaming on Twitch and just a bit about that, like just that experience of starting out on Twitch?
Well, without pointing any fingers,
okay,
you can't see it now.
This is an audio podcast, no one can see that. You've come so far, yet you've learned so little.
Tell that to the camera. Oh shit, I forgot to set them up. Never mind. Okay, cut this bit. But in all seriousness, to answer your question, the reason that I actually got into streaming was technically because of you. And that's not an accusation or anything or saying, oh god, he got me into it. But the reason I got into it was because, of course, it feels weird saying it now in retrospect, but of course 2020, as many of you know, and for the future people who don't know, there was of course the massive pandemic, also dubbed the Great Panini of 2020, where it just swept right through, the world. People couldn't leave their homes. It was an awful time. And at the time, I've always been into content creation. As you know as well, I've wrote a book and I've done blogs and things, and I wanted to have some kind of creative outlet. So I tried a YouTube channel. I think it was something to do with languages or something. It wasn't the best, to be fair. I was still kind of finding my feet on it. So I wanted a creative outlet. I came to you to moan about it, say, what can I do, Craig? Craig is basically my life coach at this point. I don't pay him. That
was going to be my next question.
How much? Yeah, you've been taking it for a ride. But yeah, sorry, my embezzlement scheme aside of friendship. Yeah, so I came to you and I said, what can I do? And you had suggested Twitch, and I was like, what, that weird website where people go on and there's all the controversies every week, and somebody showed their backside, or someone's embezzled money or scam kids, because that's all you hear about on Twitch, or at the time it was always the bad sides of Twitch. It was never obviously the good side of Twitch. So I thought, you know what, I'll give it a go. So I tried it on a computer that one of my friends gave me. It was one he was kind of getting rid of. It was a friend of a friend's, and it ran games really well. So I thought, it'll be perfect for streaming. It was not. It was the Russian roulette of... it was really bad. It was the Russian roulette of computers. Sometimes I could get a full hour of streaming in. Sometimes I get 5 minutes. Sometimes I get 25 minutes. I mean, you knew what it was like. And it was so frustrating that it nearly caused me to give up streaming at the time. And then eventually as the years went on, or rather not the years, but the months went on, I'm getting ahead of myself here. But as the months went on, I ended up... I was looking at other ways to kind of promote myself, to use different kind of outlets, because the thing I loved about streaming was more chatting with the chat, the viewers, friends, things like that. It was a great experience to, share with my friends, to be able to play a childhood game and be like, oh, look, this is awesome. Remember this Sonic game? And of course, Craigy C would be like, I don't like this game. Oh, Big the Cat. Big the Cat, amazing. But he's just pointed to the sky, just for those.
Like armband onto the
exactly. Pray for Big. Fishing rods out for Big. Anyway. But yeah, so that was the case. I ended up around November. In fact, I think it was probably sooner than that, maybe closer to October. I had pitched the idea to you about doing a podcast, because that's the thing I prefer doing on streaming rather than the gaming side, because I'm going to be honest, I'm very much a casual gamer. I don't have the skills to be MLG, 420, no scope, XXX. I'm not that guy. You're not that guy. I'm really not. But I loved chatting. I loved talking to people, getting to know people. So I thought, you know what? A podcast seems like a perfect fit. And I decided to start it up. And then I thought, well, sugar, I have no idea how to start a podcast. I don't have any idea. All I had was the name. I had Chatsunami. All I had was the name, and that was it. I didn't have anything else. So I came to you, of course. I said, do you want me to do a podcast? And you said, yeah, sure, I'll do the first episode with you. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. We did it actually on a topic that you and I bonded over, which of course was Dungeons and Dragons, because in fact, that was probably the first and only full campaign I think I've ever played of Dungeons and Dragons, and that was amazing. I'm not just saying that because you're sitting there.
Yeah, he's always saying that because I'm sitting here.
Yeah,
I've heard what he says about that campaign when I'm not around.
Oh yeah, I poop talk it all the time. I'm like, do you see the way he rolled his dice? Oh, what
how embarrassing.
What a D&D noob. I don't even know what a D&D noob, what the term would be. But yeah, so eventually you and I took to Twitch. We did the first episode. It wasn't as popular, I'm going to be honest. The viewership was quite low, and I think the way I ran it on Twitch, maybe I should have been a bit more interactive, but the way I did it is exactly like I'm doing it nowadays. It's just two people talking together about a particular topic, and yeah, eventually you said, right, okay, I'll do the first episode with you, and then you should go find someone else. And eventually, fortunately, I found Adam, and thanks to this, I've been able to talk to loads of other people, podcasters, streamers, just all around amazing people. So I hope that long answers your question for that.
It does. So you did mention being on the Twitch stream and get to play with friends and stuff. And one of the people that you did start playing with over that time was Adam, who later obviously became the podcast compadre for us. So I'd like to know a bit about, I guess, that transition from, you've done one episode with me, you've played games with Adam on Twitch. How do you get him into the fold, and why? I guess, like, why did you bring him in, and what's so good about him?
Oh god, let me tell you about that guy. No, in all seriousness, he was probably the godsend to the podcast, and although he will never admit it, like, there's two people I think I have to thank for initially getting it off the ground. First of all, there's you, of course, for making me take that first step and doing the first episode with me, and the second was Adam, because the second episode, as we said, the first episode we did was Dungeons and Dragons, parentheses and experience, and the second episode was to do with a retrospective of the Halo franchise, and I remember coming to Adam and saying, oh, do you want to do an episode on Halo? Because I knew he was like a big fan. We had streamed a lot of games together under Twitch, and I was like, oh, do you want to do a podcast episode? It's like, oh yeah, sure. And of course we did it. It is one of those episodes I think we both agree we're like, oh, we don't like listening back to it because it's one of our first ones. There's some where I listen back to the older ones and I'm like, the editing wasn't as crisp, and there's some, it's the same with any other content creation. But after that, I was sitting there and I thought, that was a really good episode, and I felt as if Adam and I really clicked. A bit like you and I when we do episodes, we really like clicked and we had a lot to say and we bounced off each other really well. And then after the episode, I sat there and I thought, well, shit. Like, where do I go from here? I've got nobody, because the idea was initially I was just going to go around all my friends. Do you want to be in an episode? Do you want to be in an episode? And then it was actually Adam who reached out and he was like, do you want me to come on another episode? Oh, do you want someone else to co-host with you? It was like, sorry if I'm being pushy and everything. And imagine the mental image, obviously it was, during 2020, so I couldn't do this physically, but it was the mental equivalent of me like on my knees, like, thank you, just crying, like, thank you so much. Although Adam, I think he said this either in the last anniversary episode or the last milestone episode, but he has said things like, oh, Satsunami, you do all the editing, you do all the promotion and things like that. And that may be the case for, the kind of manual side of it, but without him supporting and everything, I don't think Chatsunami would have gone on for 2 years if it wasn't for him coming in and saying, oh, I want to do this. So honestly, like, if he's listening right now, you better take this to heart. This is an emotional threat. You better take this to heart. But in all seriousness, no, it was an absolutely fantastic time being able to share these experiences, to research them, because we've gone through quite a lot of deep topics. Like, initially it began quite light-hearted, we had episodes on horror games, on bad movies, like Bone Alone and Silent Night, Deadly Night. I always forget that one. I feel as if I'm repressing it. And then we did, I think, top 5 Christmas films. We've done a whole spectrum. And initially it was kind of like light-hearted, upbeat, and then of course we went into more serious topics, and especially like indie games, like we talked about Kind Words, which was a big one, talking about mental health and things. Of course we talked about What Remains of Edith Finch, Papers, Please, those kind of games later on. Especially season 2, I felt as if season 2, although season 1 had its like really like great episodes, I felt as if season 2 was really when Chatsunami hit its strides. That's when I found out about Zencaster and things. That's when I started using Audacity more to edit. It was just when I got a lot more experience. So yeah, no, he is the glue, I would say. He is definitely the glue of the podcast. Or sorry, one of the brands of glue.
An off-brand glue. As you mentioned finishing season 1 that's something else I do want to chat about. So you're getting to the end of your time on Twitch, and then you took it off Twitch and did it, I guess, privately over Zoom, it would have been at the time, or whatever your tool were using. But I'd like to know just a bit about what was the reason for coming off Twitch and taking us offline, and what was the sort of advantages and disadvantages of that, or what made you make that decision. And obviously you don't regret it because you would have gone back, but I'd like to know just a bit about that transfer.
It began with the cancel hashtag. No,
before we talk here, I just feel like to apologise. I don't want to make this podcast.
I don't want to make this into a podcast episode. This is what it is. It's a thinly veiled apology. Just going back to something you said when you said, I assume it was Zoom. No, it was even worse. It was through like a Discord call.
Oh, so it was.
Which was even worse because although Discord is great for, chatting to your friends and things, it is terrible to record because you'll be on the call and everything, and sometimes it either drops out or it drops low. That was a pain to try and edit around, and you'll probably hear it in some of the older episodes where you're just like, no. I can't remember what film it is, if it's Interstellar or something, but there's like a clip where it's a guy seeing himself in the past and he's banging the door going, no. It's like me thinking back going, no, don't use Discord, there's so many better options. And of course I had no idea, but in fact I'll give you a laugh even further. After we took it off Twitch, I still used Discord, but I was recording it through Streamlabs. Don't do it, because you get a file that's like 2-point-something gigabytes or even more, and if it crashes, you've lost the whole thing. Fortunately it didn't happen to me. That was it was a nightmare to begin with, but don't do it like that. There's Zencaster, there's Riverside, there's Zoom, anything. Just don't use Discord and OBS, Streamlabs, Twitch Studio, whatever you want to record. Just don't make my mistakes. But to answer your question about why we took off Twitch, it almost felt like a kind of natural end, to be honest, because by the time we reached 50 episodes, Adam and I used to do it every Wednesday, I think it was. We used to stream like the episode live at about 7 or 8 o'clock at night, because you came on for a couple, didn't you?
Yep.
Don't get me wrong, it was fun to do, and it was fun to have a kind of schedule, but then of course Adam came to me and was like, well, I'm not sure how I'm going to be able to do this kind of going on, because you know how it is, like with life and things coming, and there's stuff that pops up, and it was the same for me, because as the world started opening up a bit more, it was harder to kind of stream, because I used to stream on a Monday, Wednesday and Friday, which is something that I can't really do now because I've got the podcast, I've got writing to do, I've got promotional stuff, I've got editing. It's a bit too hectic, and don't get me wrong, like I would love to go back to streaming one day, but compared to what I'm doing just now, I kind of prefer it. But also I felt as if it was a lot better recording it off air, because it meant that if we had to look up something, we could just pause the recording, or if we had to retake a line, which is obviously we're doing it live, so we can't, well, not live, but we're doing it in person, so we can't go back and be like, oh, sorry. But yeah, that's why we kind of took it off, and it actually worked out a lot better, because don't get me wrong, I did off stream episodes. Like I did ones with other streamers like Blowfish Man TV. We did a whole retrospective on JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I did some with Andrew, also known as Green Shield 95. We did some on the Star Wars Clone Wars series, and did we do some off?
I feel like we did. I just want to just throw something at you. So there's definitely a different vibe since you've taken it off Twitch. I feel like it's a lot more relaxed. You do have that time to mess up, to forget stuff, to not have to worry about people coming into chat and stuff. I think there is it definitely feels a lot more relaxed. That's probably the vibe I think you wanted more as well.
Oh, absolutely. Because it is quite stressful when you're doing things on Twitch like that, where you have to not only, when you're on Twitch, everybody thinks you stick on your camera, you stick on a game or whatever you're doing, and you just do your thing, which is what should happen in theory. But what you've also got to look out for is things like the chat. Are they happy? Are they being entertained? I know you shouldn't really care about the viewer count, but it's hard not to look when you're talking about something and it spikes to 10, and then 2 seconds later it goes down to 3, and you're like, did I say something to offend people? Do people not like it? And as well with, and I'm going to take a jab at Twitch here, but the whole thing about adverts and things is just infuriating. I've been in so many channels where I'm just sitting there, and I think this was brought in probably in 2021, where they have mid-roll ads and you can't disable them, even if
it's awful.
Yeah, it's really difficult to watch someone now, and that actually happened to me in one stream time where someone was like, oh, let me answer your question. You see, and then all of a sudden, the advert cut over it, and then it came back. It's like, I hope that answered your question. It's like, I did not hear anything. So I feel as if now podcasting is not a good place, or rather it's not a good fit for Twitch anymore. If I was ever to do a live one again, I would do it over on YouTube. I don't think they've got ads like mid-roll or anything, but I would rather take it to somewhere like YouTube than Twitch. I would never ever stream the episodes again on Twitch. Again, going back to your point of feeling relaxed, it is that idea of when you're on Twitch, you have to be very interactive, if that makes sense. You have to include the chat, you have to do this and that. And I never felt comfortable doing that, not because I'm a man-child being like, no, my podcast. But a lot of people would say, they would say, oh, I think this about the topic. And it's like, the whole point of the podcast was for me and whoever was on to talk about, they wanted to talk about a particular topic. Like, I think one of the best examples is when I started doing a thing called Streamer Spotlight. So that was when I was interviewing other Twitch streamers like Captain Heart, as I said, Blowfishman TV, Kitty Katie Faith, Glitter Kitty. I could listen forever. But for some of the particular ones, there were moments where a lot of them would be talking about either mental health issues, they would be talking about, how they felt as streamers, as content creators, and it didn't feel right to cut across them. Like if they're talking about, mental health and they're spilling their guts about something very personal, I'm not going to cut across and go, listen, I know you're talking about your mental health here, but we got 50 bits. It didn't feel right. So that's why, I think that's probably what solidified my reasoning behind not including the chat. Not out of badness, we would do it at the very end, but...
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And one of the things I wanted to say as well on that is, like, you'll leave a comment on Twitch and you think you're in time with them, but you actually might have been buffered and you might be 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes behind or whatever. And so by the time the person reads the comment, they've moved on. I think that's difficult as well as someone who's doing a podcast. You don't want to be like, oh yeah, let's talk about that thing we were talking about 5 minutes ago and look back. So yeah, there's all sorts of things. But yeah, moving on to that, so you were talking about season 2, you feel like you really found your groove during that time. Just tell me a bit about that. Like what changed? Obviously you took it offline, but what was tooling that changed and how's it made your life easier?
Well, I feel as if once we hit season 2, there was kind of a transitional period. I'm not going to lie, like for the first couple of episodes, that's when I was still using Discord and Streamlabs to record it offline, because I had no idea, because I went to Twitter and I was like, how the hell do I record, online without it being, Zoom or anything? And then of course someone said, oh, why don't you try Zencaster, which I know they'll probably be listening, so if they are, love you guys, because they keep replying to me on Twitter, and it sounds like weird sucking up to a company, but I'm just like, they are so nice. For a company, they are so nice. But it's been actually a pleasure using Zencaster, and this isn't a plug or anything, because I know there's obviously alternatives. Like, the only one I know off the top of my head is Riverside FM. I don't know any others, but I've never used it, so I can't, I can't speak to it. But at the same time, that was revolutionary. See, once I discovered that, the fact you could record with 2 separate audio tracks, so if I fell off my chair halfway through, someone else could just keep continuing and I could edit out. It was so good that you could do that. And as well, I got to terms with Audacity. I'm still learning, don't get me wrong,
of course.
But at the same time, it was like before I was kind of combining it with the video, like a video editor I used to use, because I don't know why I didn't use Audacity to begin with, but my reasoning was that I could just edit it on, it was like this really free, horrible video maker thing. And my reason was, once I edited it, and I was just editing out, the kind of middle gasps and things, at least then I could, export it as both an episode, like both an MP3 and a MP4 file. So I could just export the entire thing to the winner, which now I've realised is a thing called Headliner, which automatically exports it to YouTube for you. Another name drop, absolutely fantastic app. Yeah, it definitely felt as if season 2 was when we kind of hit our stride, when we were a bit bit more confident in ourselves, because there's something that I've actually noticed listening back to the old episodes, and I feel as if I was a lot more shy when I was doing it. So, you've heard the intro, me going, hello everybody, and welcome to Chatsunami, and everything, but when I listened to the old episodes, I never realised how meek I sounded. So it's like, hello everybody, and welcome to my class presentation. I mean, welcome to Chatsunami. It wasn't the same vibe as what it is now, and it does feel good, that we can do that. Yeah.
You brought up something I actually wanted to maybe ask you later. I'll ask you just now because we chatted about it. So we go way, 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 way back. We've probably been friends longer than most people probably should be friends if I'm being totally honest. Too long, many people would say.
And I'm still getting that life advice.
I hope you don't mind me asking this, and this might get cut, so we'll find. But for school and for uni and stuff, you definitely weren't the most confident person, and definitely, public speaking has never been your forte.
This interview is over.
I'm just in the kindest way. No, but neither of us are particularly good public speakers. How do you feel this has affected your self-confidence in terms of, like you said, you went from your first episode quite shy, and I think it's the same on Twitch, that you can definitely feel, when you're streaming, you can definitely feel the vibe change as well as you went along. And I'd like just to know a bit about how your self-confidence has been affected by this, and how you went from someone who probably would never say a sentence in public loudly to what you do now, where you're being heard around the world.
Well, first of all, thank you for saying that people around the world are listening.
They are. I mean, it doesn't mean there's tons of them around the world just now.
There's a small book club. A Chatsunami book club. # please start. No, you're completely right though. When I was in primary school especially, I had a very difficult time expressing myself, opening up, and of course, even my parents were looking like, oh Jesus, he can't speak. But I started getting a little bit better, but when I say better, it's like taking it inch by inch over the years. Because even like nowadays, don't get me wrong, I still get anxiety of trying to speak in front of strangers, trying to present myself. Like, there's been moments even in my work where, I've had to go in meetings, I've had to do icebreakers and things. And icebreakers, I hate. Whoever invented them, I'm sure there's a special place in hell for them. But
a cold place in hell, many would say.
Break this ice. But yeah, my hatred of him. Icebreakers aside, I really find it difficult to open up to like new people and things because I never know how they're going to react. Even when I'm promoting the podcast, it's like I could be talking to someone and they seem like the nicest person ever, and then once we start talking even more, I'm like, wow, this guy's a bit of a brat. Like, that was especially the case. I brought this up before in episodes, but there was one guy in particular, I think you might remember him, but without naming any names. When I was streaming, and I think I'd got to a milestone, and there was one particular guy who he kind of popped up and he was like, oh, congratulations, and we started talking. I was like, oh, do you want to join my Discord server? That old line. And he was like, yeah, sure. And long story short, he just started using it as a way to promote himself, which is all fine and good because there was all the channels there, except he didn't use the channels, he just promoted himself everywhere else. He kept getting told off for it, and I went to one of his streams, and I'm going to be honest, it wasn't the best. And I'm not saying that to be cruel, I'm saying that genuinely because he was just such, I don't know, just one of those personalities that you don't click with. And I thought, you know what, if this does it for other people, that's fine, not for me. But when I started Twitch streaming, I was, and you'll probably remember, Craig, I was terrified.
Well, I actually wanted to mention this real quick, but I don't think you actually mentioned this when you chatted about the Twitch stream, but we'd actually spoke about this before COVID, which is what's funny, because obviously the Twitch has a huge boom during COVID, but it was funny because we actually spoke about it beforehand, and it wasn't until COVID hit the two of us like, oh, we can actually do this now. But sorry, as you were, so when you first started.
Because funny enough, it is because of you, like, obviously because we were talking, but I think the final nail in the Twitch coffin, as it were, was because you started streaming and I saw that it could be done, like, it sounds silly to say, to be like, if he can do it, I can do it, like Rocky IV moment. But it was true though. I was like, well, if Craig can do it, then what's stopping me from trying it? And of course, I ran into all the technical issues. And one of the other things as well, as I said, I have tried other YouTube channels. Good luck trying to find them. But I have tried, and one of the things that I absolutely detest is my own voice. Like, I absolutely, I hate my voice. I genuinely, do not appreciate it whatsoever.
It is the worst part of it being a podcast and editing and having to listen back to your own voice for so long.
See, now, after 2 years, I am perfectly fine with my voice. I think I am fine with it. I can listen to it. I can edit with it. But back then, it was a real struggle. Because going back to what you were saying, because I want to be transparent about this. I don't want to pretend that, not that it's a famous podcast, but I don't want to pretend, everything's been rosy. And, because there have been moments where you do sit there and you think, is it me? Is it my personality? Because a lot of people out there are very large and bombastic when they come to their presentation, both on Twitch, both on podcasts. As we've talked about before, even off recording, you have a lot of podcasters who just say something controversial. People go, oh, it's terrible, and then of course they get millions of views because of the way they present themselves. Obviously, I don't want to do that because, I'm not a prat. Me as well. That's just not who I am. As you said, you're completely right. When I was growing up in school and even university I started to get a wee bit better, but it's a hit or a miss, essentially. But especially in university, I was kind of getting my stride back. But of course, you know what life's like. When
100%.
You get the good times, you get the bad times, you get times that really knock you in your backside and you really struggle getting back up from them. And obviously it's thanks to friends and family that you're able to do that. You're able to present yourself. And you always think to yourself that you're always a lot more confident than you actually are. Because to be honest, there's been times where I've done a stream or I've done something and I've been like, oh, I'm so confident, that went really well. And again, you listen back to the audio and you go, hello there, my name is Satsunami. I'm like, oh, sweet Jesus. I always remember, as I said, it was a language learning YouTube channel. Yep. And oh God, I wrote scripts for it. And this is why I hate scripts and using them, because I just felt so robotic when I was reading them out. Because when you're doing something like this, you get to ad lib, you get to use your own emotions, if that makes sense. Whereas if you're reading out a script, it makes it sound as if it's just, you can tell.
I think it's one of the greatest skills of certain YouTubers and stuff who read from scripts and they're able to inject their own personality. I could never write a script and inject my own personality. I think it's something that's such a specific skill.
Oh yeah.
Well, being able to do the podcast, I think you've got a different set of skills. Being able to inject your personality into these things is totally different. It's a whole different ballgame.
Because that's why I love doing the podcast with friends and things, especially unscripted, because I'll have a kind of general outline about what we're going to talk about in topics, but I never really say, I'm going to write out what we're going to say word for word, because it would just sound so stilted. It wouldn't sound great. It has been a journey, I will say. I think it has benefited me in the long run. It's been an interesting journey, I have to say. It's definitely, I'm still, don't get me wrong, I'm still shy. I still have moments where I'm like, Jesus, I can't answer the phone to that stranger, or it's like, but tattoo, it's your work. It's like, I can't do it. But
if anything, that makes you more like
But it's like things where you worry, you kind of panic and things. And all I'll say is, to anyone else that's feeling that way, if you're listening to this, that is perfectly okay. And this is something that actually, funny enough, our old history teacher used to say to us, that Rome, obviously it's a famous phrase, but he always used to tell us things like Rome wasn't built in a day and things. And as cliche as that sounds, it's entirely prevalent, even thousands of years on, but it's entirely relatable, because although you might think now, I'm not getting the views, I'm not getting the numbers, it's because I'm so shy, I can't network, I can't put myself out there. Networking's been a hard thing, I have to say,
100%.
because there's a way to network. There's one way you can just spam all your stuff out, you can just throw everything at the wall and think, I hope someone likes this. But then there's the flip side to that, where it's like, you come across as being quite pushy. Or one of the worst ones for me when I was Twitch streaming was, I always tried to go into other people's streams, and that was actually one of the better things, actually interacting, whether you're a streamer, a podcaster. I thought that was really good, and getting to know the person. That's how I managed to make so many friends through Twitch and through podcasting, because the amount of people who have messaged me directly and been like, come check out my my stream or my podcast, is sent from bot.
Copy paste was bot.
Yeah, you're like, nah, this isn't the way.
I think that's important, like, to make a good first impression on these things. Like, you only get one chance to be your first impression. But yeah, you mentioned sort of people you met through Twitch and stuff, and I'd like to ask a question about that. I'd like to ask just of all the guests and various people, I mean, obviously me, but what's just been some of your favourite episodes? Let's just take a wee bit of time to look back on that. What's been some of the best episodes in your mind?
Oh, there's so many. There's just so. I mean, as of this episode, there is about 110 episodes, I think. Maybe even more. I could be totally off. Maths was never my strong suit. Because technically there is more episodes if you include like the shorts.
Yep.
Like the 5-10 minute episodes. Or just like the bonus content, which, as you might have seen on the website and everything, yeah. This is probably quite recent to this episode, but I have to admit, I really enjoyed the King Ghidorah episode. Where we not only talked about the film, we did its own episode, but we also did our own commentary track together where we went through the film. We absolutely, it was just a blast just watching the film, laughing at it, just enjoying it. It was just like when I used to go to your house and we would just watch bad films together and just riff on it. It was just such a blast to do. There's been quite a few episodes I have been listening to recently. Like if I'm flashing back to season 1, I did like the Pokemania one we did.
That was fun, yeah.
That was good, like reminiscing. There was Deadly Premonition. That was a fun one. Even so much so that the creator of the game liked the tweet. I doubt he's listened to the episode, to be honest, but
you never know.
If he has, shout out to Swery65. Yeah. Oh, there's just so many. I have to admit though, there have been other ones that kind of delve into more of a serious side. For example, as I was saying when we talked about Kind Words, where that's a game that heavily depends upon people putting themselves out there, making themselves very vulnerable. It was interesting to talk about it from that perspective, and that's what I love about the podcast. It's the fact that every episode doesn't have to be like a joke or haha, funny meme, Adam. There was also the To the Moon episode, What Remains of Edith Finch, as I said. We got into some very deep themes with those, and especially even with Call of Duty. We talked about World War II games, and of course we had to talk about the atrocities of said war, so it was really interesting to discuss that kind of thing. To be able to do it in a way that didn't seem forced. I wasn't just saying, hello, welcome to Chatsunami, today we're going to be talking about war crimes. And, it kind of naturally came into the conversation. The other ones I can think off the top of my head, the Beyblade episode, that was amazing. There's honestly just so many, but going back to see the interviews themselves, I'm not going to pick one out in particular, because
everyone else trashed this one great.
Yeah, it's like, trash, great, trash, great. Please don't count. Please don't count.
I've got your episode list open right now. I'm going to have a look. Who's trash?
It's like trash, great. This one is
good guy.
That's exactly what it's like. An old Scottish reference there.
Let's talk about the streamer spotlights then.
For the streamer spotlights themselves, I have to admit, they're one of my favourite types of episodes to do, purely because when I began them, I didn't know really what to expect. So going back to, and Blowfishman TV is going to be loving this because I keep shouting him out, but he was actually not only was he the first streamer to come onto that, but he was also the first to do the collaborations with the JoJo series and things like that. And what I love about them is, initially I thought I had to be quite rigid and say, oh, we've got to talk about Twitch, we've got to talk about this and that, oh, tell me about yourself, that kind of thing. But the more episodes I did, the more I realised that if I just let the conversation flow, then it would be a hell of a lot better. And I have to admit, some of the best episodes have been when I just let the interviewees, as it were, just go off. Not go off and on, that's the wrong thing to do. Just to be able to express themselves. Because, and I'm not going to single out any particular one, but if you go to listen to them, there's a lot of really interesting ones where they've been very comfortable to open themselves up quite a lot. Whether it's mental health issues, whether it's being a woman on streaming, or the kind of hardships that content creators face, whether there was one particular one which I thought was quite quite interesting where I think it was a Nath Gaines episode where he discussed kind of evolving and transitioning through this content creation journey. Like, he didn't want to be solely fixated on like just Twitch streaming and that was going to be his whole personality forever. But in the moment, he wanted to do this and he wanted to present himself the best he could. And I thought that was such an interesting way to promote himself and everything. It's been amazing to get to know these streamers, to be able to let them open themselves up, because there was one particular one, and this one was a bit hard-hitting, where one streamer had said that they got into streaming because one of their friends unfortunately passed away, and they wanted to kind of stream and spread happiness and joy, and it was something that was very touching, and it really got me. And again, I'm not saying like it was his fault, not mine, but I didn't want to push streamers, if that makes sense. I don't want to push them and be like, so tell me about your tragic backstory and things like that. I don't want them to feel as if like I'm pushing them for that kind of thing. I want people who come on the show to be able to open up, to be not transparent, that's the wrong word, but to be themselves. If they want to share and they want people to kind of relate and know that they're not alone out there, because that is like, God, I was going to treat 2020 like a podcast episode. That was one of the themes of the 2020 years, where everyone was like so isolated, everyone was so alone. It was a horrible time for a lot of people. The fact now that it's never been easier, if that makes sense, to start podcasts, to be able to interact with people from all over the world, maybe going through similar situations.
That's actually brought me onto another topic I'd quite just like to kind of throw at you, and it was, so at the end of COVID, end of 2020, because in 2021 the world opens back up, you were talking about season 2, you were struggling a wee bit to schedule on Twitch, and as the world changes again, and a lot of podcasts and Twitch streams just disappear at this point, especially leading into like mid-2021. A lot of people just started them for something to do. So I'd like to know just a bit about like what's been your longevity. How have you managed to keep it going? This is now 2022. This is 2 years. I was on the first year anniversary episode. I was on the first episode. We're sitting here again. How have you done it? Let's talk about it.
That's a secret. Moving on to this.
A secret recipe.
I'm not going to lie, it is very difficult. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Sorry, that sounds very aggressive. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, Craig. It's very, very difficult. It is difficult though, because I think I was talking to like a couple of other streamers that I'd met on Twitch at the time, and we were discussing that about how there's so many people just that you got to know over the pandemic and everything, and then all of a sudden they're gone. Like, no goodbyes, no ceremony, just, and it's quite like not a scary thought, but it's just kind of a bittersweet moment. Like, on the one hand, that they've moved on, they're living their lives, they're doing everything they couldn't in 2020 and half of 2021, but at the same time though, it is just sad to see people disappear, and then as soon as they start disappearing, your numbers, as you were mentioning there, your numbers start to slowly dwindle, because everybody's going out, they're not sitting watching Twitch. And I'm not going to pretend my numbers were like amazing during the pandemic. I think the best I ever got, and that was when you and I, funny enough, did that Fall Guys stream, and we got like high 30s, I think. I was like, yes.
What a stream that was, to be honest.
Oh, that was an amazing stream. Was that the one we talked about, the Go Compare guy?
Paul, man, I'm not going to narrow these ones down. There was a lot of stuff that should stay on that stream.
Find out next week on that one. That is difficult when you see everybody leaving, your numbers dropping, and you kind of think, is this what I want to do? And that's partly as well what I thought was better about kind of pre-recording these episodes as opposed to doing them live on Twitch, because if you do them live on Twitch, and there's something that you actually brought up which was a brilliant point like years and years ago, where you said if people are watching the episode on Twitch, then they're less likely to go check it out again when you re-release it. I did notice that all of the season 1 episodes had lower numbers. Even if there was people coming in to check it out, there wasn't as many people coming in. Obviously that's why, because we've already heard this episode. It's like Back to the Future. Hey, I know this one. It's quite hard in that way, but if I'm honest, it's probably, and this is going to sound like such a Yu-Gi-Oh moment, but it was like the whole thing about friendship and friends and other content creators who were still going as well, keeping you going through it. Yep. Because there's nothing worse than feeling as if you're alone in a problem. To feel as if you're isolated, you can't go on because, you're not getting the numbers, you're not getting the attention that you think you deserve in it. Don't get me wrong, they've been fairly successful, but there's some times where I've done like a particular themed month. Like for example, we did the Halo month, we did the Sonic month, we did the Terminator month, 3 like excellent months. and definitely more to come. Cough Godzilla. But at the same time, you know, when you get episodes that maybe don't do as well as the other, and you think, well, what went wrong there? And sometimes it's nothing. Sometimes it's just, oh, I don't like Sonic, or oh, I don't like Halo, or Terminator, God forbid you poor soul. You know, like, oh, I don't like X, Y, and Z. It's like, right, okay, that's fine. Because that is one of the other, I don't want to say bad things about Chatsunami, but it's the fact that even when I was streaming, I've always prided myself in being a variety streamer or a variety podcast. I want to talk about things that I'm interested in, or things that I'm, you know, that I think would be a fun topic, things I think would be really interesting to research. I don't want to be sitting here doing the same topic day in, day out, because you get burned out. Oh, don't get me wrong, you cultivate a larger following that way. But if you want to go away and do something else, it's a bit like Megamind. Spoilers for Megamind. You know?
Oh no, Megamind spoilers.
I know. But it's like, you know, the big twist in that was like, I want to be a musician. He's like, what? No, you're a superhero. It's like, no, I want to be a musician. He's terrible at it. But that's the thing though, it's like, if you want to do something else, it's the same with Twitch. If you want to do like another game, and people are like, oh, I'll only subscribe because you play COD or Sonic or whatever, then you don't get the freedom. Whereas if you start off like that to say, look, I'm just going to talk about what I want. Okay, if you want to join us on this journey, please feel free, you're more than welcome. But if not, that's also perfectly fine. So yeah, definitely, if you're feeling like that you want to kind of quit and say, oh, I don't want to do this anymore, talk to other content creators. All I'll say is, when you're putting out tweets, like, be very honest about how you're feeling about it. Don't put out like a vague tweet saying feeling bad, and then you'll get lots of what's wrong, DM me hun kind of responses. Like, genuinely feel free to be open, because although obviously, you know, you get people who are a bit arsey, but at the same time you'll get people out there who are genuinely going through the same struggle as you are. Obviously, you know, mileage may vary, but at the same time, at least if you put yourself out there, you are going to get people who go, oh, I'm feeling exactly the same way. Because I thought that about streaming, right enough. I thought, oh, I can't do streaming, I can't do podcasting. And then, obviously it's few and far between, but when I get people who say, oh, I really enjoyed your podcast, Satsunami, oh, I really enjoyed your episode on this, I really enjoyed that, it makes me feel happy, because I think, well, someone out there is listening to it, someone really enjoyed that episode, and it's nice to feel that your work isn't, it's not falling on deaf ears, as it were.
It's spreading a bit of positivity as well, you know. How many people go out of their way to make people feel bad, and you can do a little bit of good every day, you know. It's nice. It's a nice thought. On the subject of the different variety you've done all sorts of stuff. We've had the streamer content, you've done anime, movies, we did the watch along recently. We're going into year 3. You're next.
The next generation.
The next generation. Chatsunami GX.
Did you say GX or GEX?
GX, I think. Is that not the Yu-Gi-Oh?
Oh yeah,
you go to the school.
That's what I was thinking. Like, you see dropping a Yu-Gi-Oh? Oh wait, no, I did it before. No,
Don't get on to me.
You get the Egyptian god card pass. So here's your Exodia, the question card.
Right, what am I talking about? Oh yeah, right, so moving on to year 3. What's next? What's something you want to do? What are the things, the new challenges ahead? Yeah, what's happening? What are you doing?
Would you believe me if I said I was very disorganised?
I would. I would be astounded.
You'd be shocked and or appalled. There was a lot that I've actually planned, you know, that I've said, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. But the unfortunate thing is, because obviously life is very unpredictable, you can't really factor in certain things. Like, if I want to plan something with another podcaster, for example, if I wanted to do like a full episode with you, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, I can't do that. It's like, well, why the hell? It's like, oh, because I have a line. It's like, oh, no. But you know, like, it's kind of factoring in the contingency plans, as it were. But I mean, there are a couple of things, you know. There are a couple of particular games that I want to cover, like for example Spec Ops, The Line. I want to get into a lot more serious topics, not overly so. I want to try a hand at looking into more, again, I don't want to be like gritty and grimdark, no. But because the thing is with that is that obviously, you know, Chatsunami is like a very light-hearted podcast, but it is good every so often to have like an analytical video, a video that you think, oh, I'm going to deep dive into this particular topic. One of the other things I want to do is I want to do a lot more interviews. So as was talked about, I did a lot of streamer spotlight episodes. So So I want to kind of get into that with podcasters now. I want to, probably it'll just be under the same umbrella. Maybe not as Streamer Spotlight.
Yeah.
Maybe more as like Podcaster Pondering. Nah, I'm only joking. But it'll just be more straight interviews where I chat to people and everything. By the time this episode comes out, I'm also taking part in a Scottish collaboration with other podcasters. So that is running from December 5th to the 11th of this year, 2022, for any future listeners. So that'll be interesting. That'll be interesting to get to know more Scottish podcasters, because I have, like, recently, and I'm like, Jesus, there's so many.
I was going to say, it's funny because you don't think about podcasts in terms of your local sphere. You think of them as very global, and you think of like other, in your for instance, other variety podcasts is what you think about. But actually, there's a whole community there of actually quite local people to us. You know, Glasgow's got tons of podcasts, but we don't ever think about that sphere.
Absolutely. It was really shocking when I saw, like, oh, we're based in Glasgow, Dumbarton, Dundee, Edinburgh, you know, all of these podcasts that just popped out of nowhere. I'm like, where have they been? Because all the podcasts that I've been interacting, don't get me wrong, there's been a couple down south in England that I've collaborated with, like Review It Yourself. There's loads of others, like Casting Views, they're great as well. There's honestly just so many out there that you listen to and you think, this is really good. Because the amount of streamers, as much as I honestly love them, there has been a lot where I've had to factor in like time difference and things like that. That's been absolutely horrific. Where, as I said, I've interviewed Glitter Kitty 1, who is an amazing Australian streamer / musician. But at the same time, as I said, she lives in Australia. So, like, getting those times to line up at a reasonable time for both of us was very difficult. I've also had people from the Philippines, America, Canada. It's been quite tricky. So, as soon as you get someone who is from the UK or something, you're like, oh, thank God, a time zone that's not like 20 hours ahead. Honestly, see if there's any New Zealanders that out there that are like, I want to come on Chatsunami. It's like, please do the math before you come on. My poor brain can't take it. I'm like, oh, are you sure we're going to do that? It's like, I'm dreading the day I'm going to get like a text and it'll be like, where are you? And it's like, well, the recording's not for another hour. It's like, that was 2 hours ago. Like, oh no. One kind of final thing, kind of slightly off Chatsunami, and this kind of links back to what you were saying about getting confidence in things. As I said before, I was really into creative writing and everything, and in 2014 I decided to publish a book called Canvas, and not going into too many details but
save it for the pod.
Yeah, long story short, I published it, and because I didn't know a lot about marketing myself on Twitter and all these other places,
so it's a totally different time when you publish it in terms of social media.
Oh, absolutely. It was a different time. Okay. Whereas now that I've put myself out there, because back then I was trying to be myself, but myself in 2014 isn't the same person as it is in 2022. No. If that makes sense.
Totally.
It's one of those things you just kind of think. Like, I was reading through past tweets and I was like, what a dork. What a nerd. But, you look at that and you think, compared to back then, it's something completely different. So doing the podcast gave me the confidence to work on not only the book again, to re-release it on Amazon, which I think by this point the ebook should definitely be out, and because of formatting issues, which I won't rant about too much, the paperback is probably on its way. It's probably just going to be unceremoniously just dropped like that, like, here you go, this is the paperback, don't ask me any more questions. But Satsu, why is remember the old pirate ads? Why is the text so blurry? Because they wouldn't print it right. God damn it. Of course, that inspired me to kind of jump out of my comfort zone and actually release it as an audiobook. So I'm doing it chapter by chapter, because I'm not sitting down recording like 12 hours of this book, because the book's like 370 odd pages. That's a chunky boy. I had a lot of time. It's chunky. But at the same time, doing the podcast and doing the streaming has given me confidence to give it a go and try it. And of course, by the time this is out, the first episode will be released both on the Chatsunami podcast and on a new podcast. Well, I say podcast, audiobook podcast.
New channel.
Yeah, called The Writer's Canvas. So, that's going to be the kind of main side project. Like, it's not going to cut any time away from Chatsunami because it is very personal and it's just me recording it and it's me debating about whether or not I should be doing funny voices, and then you listen back to it and you go, I should not do funny voices.
Arnold Schwarzenegger's accent was the wrong choice for the super serious character of 5,000 lines.
I'm going through a breakdown. I should not have done that.
I was about when we did D&D, and it was like when you're a DM and you pick Dungeon Master and you pick a stupid voice for a character, and that character keeps going, so you're a big rival, and that's what I mentioned. I'm talking about the Dragons now.
No.
Limbro, it was your character, and his big rival was a character that I gave a Brooklyn accent to, because I thought he was going to be in 2 episodes. I was like, that's fine, we're never going to happen, and I had to do a Brooklyn accent for 4 years.
The first time he died, you could have just been like, oh yeah, when you die. I thought you were Doctor Who when you changed.
Yeah, he regenerated and lost his accent. Yeah. I should have done that.
It's just his accent that changes nothing. He doesn't even get taller or smaller. He just changes out. That would be horrific.
Best of today.
But sorry.
Kind of going on to my last question, and so just thinking about the whole journey and just everything that's gone on so far, just what's been like the biggest lesson you've learned from all this? Whether that's something quite simple or something quite broad, I'd just like to hear, what's been the big lessons?
Don't talk to strangers.
Well, that's kind of the opposite of what you said this entire podcast.
It's like, don't do it, guys, it's ruined me.
I'm surprised by that.
Okay, that's the end of the episode. No, joking aside, and genuinely for legal reasons, that is a joke. Yeah, I think the biggest lesson, in all seriousness, if I could get sappy for a moment, is like being able to put yourself out there. Being able to have the confidence to say, I want to create something, I want to make my mark on time, I suppose, if you want to be very grand. But, like, I want to put my stamp on, like, this corner of the internet. And, you're not always going to get that. You're not always going to get a huge return on that, if that makes sense. You're not going to get people who are always going to be like, oh, we love it, oh, you're an overnight success and everything. And I think the biggest lesson is, that's okay. It sounds weird to say, but that is genuinely okay. If you're not getting the numbers like one day, but you get them another day, that's fine. Just keep building on that. And being able to do the podcast, because the podcast, I feel, is a bit more personal.
Yeah.
At least with streaming and with Twitch, you can be a bit more detached. You can be like, haha, funny game, ha, Big the Cat. You can hide yourself behind that. And you can obviously decide how much you want to put forward of yourself. Whereas with the podcast, I feel as if more and more, well, the more it goes on, the more personal I've become, and obviously not oversharing or anything, but to a reasonable degree, yeah.
And as you talk about certain topics as well, you've talked about various emotional episodes and stuff, and that you have to bring out your personal side as well.
Because, I mean, even if you look at some of the recent episodes, like, there was one episode I talked about with a particular friend, and we discussed it's not the anime you would actually think you would bring up these kind of serious topics, but it was an anime called Love, Chiribo and Other Delusions, and it's basically about a slice of life romance anime. It's very light-hearted, it's quite cutesy and everything, but there's a lot of serious, like, kind of hidden moments there. And the friend who I did the podcast episode with, he was like myself, he was going through a difficult time, and I won't obviously give too much away in this one. Seriously, like, I would recommend you listen to the episode yourself to hear the full story itself, because I don't want to undersell it by abridging it and being like, oh yeah, bad time. But he was going through this really bad time, and he found like comfort in this anime. It's amazing as well, especially like going back to the interviews, when you hear people going through these experiences, being able to open themselves up, kind of realising as well that you're not alone, because you do see people who are really, really successful on Twitch and everything, and that gives you an inferiority complex. Like, I kind of feel bad, I have to admit, I do feel bad when I put up, I've reached like 3k views, I've reached 4k views, and I'm doing that in a way to kind of show myself how much progress I made from the very beginning, where I was only getting like 2-3 people watching on Twitch. And I don't mean to make others feel bad about that who aren't reaching those levels. And then, of course, they start feeling bad. They go, why is this guy getting 4k and I'm not getting 4k? I don't mean to say anyone sounds like that. But at the same time, it's like...
You were in issues once as well.
Exactly, because I even looked at people with envious eyes being like, why have they got the views? And, it's a horrible mindset to have. It's genuinely one of the worst to think, oh, I deserve this, but they don't, kind of thing. Like, that's one of the things, especially on Twitch, where people say streamer X only gets, these views because of this, or they only get views because of that. Obviously not going into specifics, but you'll know what I mean. And you think that isn't the case at all, because everyone has different demographics, they have different interests. It's a world of, 7 billion people?
8, we actually just crossed 8.
Have we just crossed 8? Oh god. Okay, this is the celebration of 2-year anniversary / reaching 8 billion people. But that's the thing though. There's 8 billion people, and obviously every one of them isn't going to be listening to Chatsunami, but I'm really happy though, just at the way that a kind of mini community's cultivated around it, and the fact that I've been able to provide that kind of safe space for people, because that is one of the worries I have, because I don't want to just be one of those generic, oh, come in, we're the cool kids, and then, like, you want people to feel comfortable. And kind of going back to something earlier I was talking about with the whole controversy thing and people putting themselves out there and being boisterous, one of the things I've learned is, and again this sounds like a Hallmark special, I want people to kind of understand and know me as a person. I don't want people to say, oh look, it's because obviously I go by Satsunami, that's the personality I've chosen to adopt here. At the same time, it's like I want to be known for, like, my views and things on a particular topic, whether it's movies, whether it's games, whatever. I don't want to be pretending like, I don't know, nostalgia critic, angry video.
You're not playing a character.
I'm not playing a character, I'm playing myself, and that might not be good in the short run, which I feel as if a lot of people have seen in the short run. They'll see you as just a guy who is going out there, a guy with another podcast, but at the same time, you want to put your honest face forward, if that makes sense. You don't want to reveal too much, but you want to show the world who you are, what you think, what you feel, and at the end of the day, maybe someone in the future is going to listen to that and go, that's a neat podcast. But I would just say that's what I've kind of learned, just to have the confidence to put myself out there a bit more. And maybe it hasn't translated over with some real life, but it's getting there, it's getting better. But in terms of like online interaction, I definitely know more about what I'm doing, more about networking, saying the right things, saying the wrong things. And you're going to make mistakes, you're going to like have downtime, you're going to have like really horrible moments, but the real lesson is just keep going, live and learn,
So what you're saying is, live, laugh, learn.
No, I didn't say that.
Oh, I totally missed the point.
I didn't.
Oh, right, okay.
That won't count. Well, technically yes. Technically yes, but technically get out.
And no, I really like that. It was really nice. Yeah, just obviously then, any closing thoughts for the episode?
Well, it's been 2 years, as we established very thoroughly. And I just want to say like a huge thanks to a lot of people. First of all, I'm going to start with you because you're in my crosshairs here.
Oh, thanks.
But I just, first of all, I just want to thank you for giving me both the confidence and the assurance, as it were. For even when I was sitting there moaning, saying, oh, I don't know if I can do this and everything, and you're just like, get out there, you'll do it. Because first of all, without you, I wouldn't be Twitch streaming, I wouldn't have done the podcast, I wouldn't really be here if it wasn't for you. So thank you for that, first of all.
It's been an absolute pleasure. And it's been amazing to watch this journey, so thank you.
Of course, the other person I have to thank is my very good co-host, first of all Adam, for keeping it alive, as it were, and also Andrew /Green Shield, as he likes to be known. Well, he likes to be known as Andrew. It's like the artist formerly known as Green Shield.
Trying to get his birth certificate changed been a nightmare, man.
It's been back and forth. I've seen that driving licence. It's just like scored out so many times. It's written on the back. But no, jokes aside, like both of them have been amazing supports to say, oh, do you want to do episodes together? Do you want to do this or that? And it's been a laugh because at the same time, kind of quickly linking back to what you were saying before, podcasting has made me realise that it's not just about pumping out content, but at the same time, it's doing it with your friends. It's able to come together, to be able to say, we're having a good time together, we're chatting about things. It's basically things that you and I chat about, but we don't record. And that way you get a lot of people like who say, oh, our conversation would be hilarious if we recorded it. And it's like, it probably would, so slap a mic on and get it there. But the other people I would like to thank, first of all the Streamer Spotlight people, they have been absolutely fantastic. Some of my favourite episodes that have come out of that, to all of the other podcasts that have been supportive. I mean, there's too many to list, as I said. There's Cast and Views, Review It Yourself, Nerd Nostalgic Podcast, Beer and Chill, haha. The new one. Honestly, like, there's so many, like, I can't list them all. Video Game Club Podcast, like, honestly, there's just so many that I could, like, sit here and list. But if you just look at the people I interact with on Twitter, you'll probably see them. And honestly, yeah, to everyone who has just really been supportive. Yeah, no, they've been absolutely, like, rocks and trying to promote. And of course, that'd be amiss not to thank, obviously the partner. And, well, at the time you'll be listening to this, my dog has indeed ceased barking. If you listen to the outtake, probably. So I'd like to thank her for the poor dog for being quiet. But no, yeah, like, I feel this is a very long-winded Oscar speech, but most importantly, the person I do want to thank as well is, of course, the lovely listeners at home, which I always say, and I'm getting the thumbs up. Jokes aside, obviously without the listeners, Chatsunami wouldn't be what it is today. It would just be, me throwing out my opinions onto the internet. It's a bit like one of those Twitter accounts that just have like 2 followers and they've got like
no profile picture.
Millions of tweets coming out and they're like, this is going to be the zinger that's going to make me famous. And it's like, and you look through it and you're like, this has no likes.
There's nothing more terrifying than that account.
Yeah.
When that account pops up on your timeline, oh no.
I feel nothing but this man. This man. You're like, it's even worse when they like your post. You're like, oh no. The end is near. But no, in all seriousness, the fact that you guys are supporting me, and not just me, but supporting, everybody else that comes on. The fact you're supporting all of my friends in particular, whether it's, of course, you or Adam or Andrew or anybody who really collaborates. So without you guys, it wouldn't be the same as it is now. So yeah, thank you very much. And yeah, once again, Craigy C, thank you so much for coming on, grilling me.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, it's been great. Have you got any final comments?
As long as I don't have to close this episode because I was interviewing you, I don't know.
No.
Okay, that's great. Back to you. I'm happy. I really enjoyed that. Thank you for having me on.
And as always, thank you all so much for listening to our 2-year anniversary episode of Chatsunami. So if you would like to hear more of our episodes, if you'd like to hear our 50th episode's milestone, if you'd like to hear our 1-year anniversary, our 100th episode even, then you can check that out on our website, podpage.com/Chatsunami. And if you want to listen to it on your handy dandy podcast apps, you can check it out on Spotify, iTunes, and really any good podcast app. Just look for the name Chatsunami and we will see you there. But until then, after 2 years, stay safe, stay awesome, stay hydrated, and as you would close it out, stay classy and have a banana. Bye guys.
What I've done. What I've done.